Market Prospects, delivering timely information and education to prairie farmers for over 30 years. Market Prospects is brought to you by the University of Saskatchewan's Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics and these sponsors. Log on to marketprospects.usask.ca to view past programs and for information on upcoming programs.
Well, the price of farmland is always of interest to farmers. This week on Market Prospects, an in-depth look at prairie farmland values. Joining us from Regina is Corinna Mitchell-Beaudin, the Executive Vice President and Chief Risk Officer with Farm Credit Canada. Ms. Mitchell-Beaudin, thanks for taking time to come on Farmgate.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to be here.
So, FCC's 2015 Farmland Values Report was recently released. What's been happening with farmland values across Canada, and especially the prairies, in the last year relative to previous years?
Well, as you say, FCC's report was recently released, and within it we show that farmland values across the country and across the prairies increased yet again this past year, albeit at a slower pace than previous years. So specifically, nationally, farmland values were up 10%, and that compares to 14% in 2014 and 22% in 2013. For the prairie regions, we saw farmland values increase by 11% in Alberta, 9% in Saskatchewan, and 12% in Manitoba. And it's important to note that those increases are averages, and this year especially, we saw a lot of variation within regions. So take Saskatchewan, for example, almost 50% of the areas that we monitor saw little to no increases in farmland values. At the end of the day, though, the demand for farmland remains strong, which absolutely reflects a strong ag industry in Canada.
So what major factors have been affecting the price of prairie farmland over the last year, and how might that impact land prices going forward?
Well, there's many variables that influence the price of land, but the three that I would say have the most significant impact are supply and demand, commodity and livestock prices, and interest rates. And while interest rates continue to remain low, it is important for producers to exercise caution in this area, because in the going forward period, it is reasonable to assume that interest rates will rise over time, and pressure on commodity prices from growing global stocks will have an impact. So both of those variables are important to keep your eyes on going forward.
But are there regional or local issues affecting farmland values across the three prairie provinces?
Absolutely. We saw a lot of that this past year. For example, in Alberta, the continued strength of the cattle industry contributed to strong demand for land that otherwise would have been considered less productive land. And then in other parts of Alberta, we saw the impact of the lower oil price on farmland values. In Saskatchewan, some of the greatest increases in farmland values occurred in areas where lentils can be grown. So again, it just underscores the impact that commodity prices and livestock prices have on farmland values.
Who's buying the farmland, and what relationship do the current prices being paid for farmland have to productivity values in agricultural use?
Well, the vast majority of farmland in Canada is owned by Canadian farmers and their families. And while there has been more discussion as of late about newer entrants purchasing farmlands, newer non-traditional buyers that have more of an investor-like profile, the fact remains that the vast majority of farmland purchased in 2015 was purchased by producers themselves. In terms of the productive value part of your question, in 2015, cash receipts were at an all-time high or near an all-time high. And while the ratio of the price per land to the income we earn off the land has been increasing over the last few periods, it still very much remains consistent or in line with the long-run average over the past 50 years, which is good. It means the price we're paying for land is reflective of the value that we've earned off that land over the last 50 years.
What's been happening with land rental arrangements and rates across the prairies?
Well, land rental rates always have traditionally lagged changes in farm and agriculture markets. And with farmland values remaining strong and with cash incomes also remaining high for agriculture, it is not surprising to see that land rental rates continue to be high from a historical standpoint. We all know agriculture is cyclical, and there will be periods where cash income levels will be down from these recent highs that we're enjoying. And it probably won't be until that point in time when we see rental rates start to come down or face pressure.
Well, great information. Thanks again for taking time to come on Farmgate.
My pleasure. Always great to be here.
We'll be right back after a few messages.